Hello, hello! I've been waiting for you. I'm Taren S, a high priestess and a mama, a southern conjuring witch with almost 40 years experience in the community. And also, I want to say thank you to all of my new subscribers and which have been leaning in on the channel, and to those of you who have pressed like on the video. And with that said, come on in! Let's brew some magic together. Hello, hello. How are all you Crossroads witches out there doing? And of course, a shout out to all you dark witches who like to stand in liminal, balanced places. Today's video is going to be more of a podcast talking head, me rambling, and I'm hoping that what's in my head I can get out into the nether realms and it gets translated right, because it's a pretty heavy damn subject. Y'all read the title, all right? That I'm a southern conjuring witch, and what does that mean? For those of you that have been watching the channel, you've heard me use all sorts of words: American folk magic, all right, conjure. I don't like to actually use the word hoodoo a lot. I have been learning more, and so I'm not, without getting all up into that, it's a commercialized word without going any further as well on that. But I realized all these words, I say crossroads witch, I say dark witch, I say traditional witchcraft, they're all true. There is no one word. For most magic folk, there is no I'm a this, all right? Be very careful labeling yourself as I just labeled myself. Go imagine that one, witches. Excuse me. Goodness. All right, I'm gonna take a sip. I'm sitting here. It's an afternoon. It is 100 degrees, so I'm up here in my room. I can't be down at the cottage. And it is just that afternoon where I was like, ooh, I want a beer while I do this video, because I've been mulling on this video. I've been marinating. I mean, like, for real marinating. Like, I took notes on to try to explain who the hell Taren is. Yeah. And I'm a high priestess. I'm a mama. All right. I walk in this crossroads realm. And so let's first... I'm a southerner, all right? It was around me. I grew up around it. I talk about that, you know. I was within the conjuring community. You will find that there's different flavors, all right? Hoodoo is an umbrella term. It's much like saying somebody is pagan, all right? It tells us actually very, very little. All right, it's a word that was used to unify us and later on commercialize us. All right, within community, you will hear folks talking root work, root doctor, a mama, a papa, you know, a conjurer. There's a lot of, the most common thing I'll say is we'll talk about, we're just doing a little something. All right, you just don't talk about it. And type things. But within the community, like I said, this is an umbrella term for very large peoples with so many flavors. I am out of the southern flavor. The area I am from is within a Protestant-based flavor. Whereas if I was in New Orleans, Louisiana, all right, and actually parts up north, I might potentially be more of a Catholic flavor, all right? But from where I was exposed, what I learned, all right, my folks were part of the primitive Baptist movement throughout the 1800s. You have to be aware of the fact when we talk about white folk and black folk, be aware of the fact that who was deemed white were just certain Europeans, all right? English, of course, you know, the German, the French, and the Spanish. I know. You're like, wait a second. Well, they were deemed to be the elite, class, the aristocrat, the landed folk, were deemed to be the white people. My folks are part of the other, were of Irish descent, landed up in Arkansas through a whole story, got into Primitive Baptist because it wasn't fully integrated church. We couldn't go to church with the white people. All right, but the black folk were very generous, and that was where this mingling came about of Irish and black folk, because at this time period, Irish were not deemed white. Also, if you were Italian, you're not white either during this time. Any Middle Eastern, you're not white either. You know, I mean, we have to look at within context. This is part of learning to look at its entire ecosystem, looking at the complete story and understanding how these pieces were interplaying with each other. All right, and within my line, we were exposed to the prayer, the power of scripture for using the Psalms in healings, prayer work. My grandmother, you know, that was her jam. Type thing. And no, you don't sit and they teach classes. It was just around me. I didn't even think anything of it, to be honest with you. But by the time I was 12, 13, I was already leaning towards that pointy black cat sitting up here that y'all just right out of camera can't see. All right, I went through my witchy puberty and started, you know, looking for the witch folk. And that put me in a small group of people, you know, my first coven in North Carolina. And that did have the conjuring roots, folk magic roots to it. It had more of an Appalachian flavor to it at the time. And so I was already in a group that was intermingling these streams of magic. We've been intermingling these streams of magic for hundreds of years now, all right? And it's about understanding where the streams come from and giving it a little bit of honor and respect, never taking it and calling it yours, all right? But understanding how all of this mingling was going on, and that what was going on the other side of the mountain may not have been going on this side of the mountain. That's why I'm like, always get a little touchy when I start talking about this. That many folks have leaned in and asked me, could you please explain? And I'm just like, you know, I was walking in the middle of a lot of stuff and blissfully unaware, to be honest. But I ended up spending 7 years with that group, all right? And they were very, like I said, folkloric witchcraft. She had spent time with Lori Cabot, so she was influenced by the Cabot tradition and bringing more formality into our group. Prior to that, there wasn't as much formality. It was more of like a family, you know. I mean, we went over to her house for tea. We didn't go for full moon ritual, all right? That time period, it was different, you know. We did get together later on that night, you know, to do the blessing under the full moon, but it was just different terminology, all right? I've been blessed enough. I joke about these books. I can track modern witchcraft, you know, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, into the 2000s, and where we're sitting today in the 2020s. All right, things have changed a little. We've learned better words, all right? We've also learned about other folk. For a lot of the pagan community, they weren't aware that there was these, you know, this folk magic, conjuring, folk witches. We were always referred to as, you know, in their books, they'll be like, and other witches, or and other witches, you know. Or typically what is referred to in a modern sense as a dark witch, meaning that we work in both the dark and the light. We seek balance. We understand the liminal spaces, all right? The world is a beautiful place, and it's also tragic sometimes, all right? And that is part of our world, our realm. We also, the righteous vengeance, the right to defend, to repel, to repent, whatever you want to do to them, that's on you, not on me. If you're justified, then you need to go take care of some business. Because sometimes, y'all done heard me say this, you gotta slap a bitch. Yeah. Some folk, that's all there is. You just gotta slap it back, honey, and as hard as you can, all right? Within traditional witchcraft, our rule of 3 is if you mess with me, I'm going to hit you 3 times as hard, so you never mess with me again. All right. But my first, when something happens, is to seek solution, to seek a way to go with the flow, so to speak. We are not dark, Many of us work within the goddess traditions. I've worked within the arms of the goddess as well, but I also work with other entities, aspects of divinity. And I'm getting off topic, and I'm so gonna try to keep this. All right, and I want y'all to know right now, all you witches that are sitting here watching this, okay? Watch it till the end. I got a surprise. I'm going to tell y'all, not only am I going to tell y'all something, but you got a chance to get something too. Don't tell the other witches. This is our secret, and I'll tell you at the end of the video how to get in on our secret, all right? Now, we're back on how did Taren become Taren, okay? So I'm involved in this group in North Carolina. Wonderful group, amazing people, folkloric witchcraft, all right? Within the folk traditions, we don't typically give titles off. We don't have like in 3 years, you're a high priestess, go hive off program, all right? What we typically is you will work with a group, you will train with a mentor, a godmother, godfather, they're often referred to as, your high priestess, whatever title that group's using, but you'll work with somebody years, all right? Within the House of Witchcraft, I tell people, I don't know, 10, 12 years. All right, sweetheart, we're no different than a highly trained doctor, okay? We spend years, and then we spend residency years with groups, and then we get into it, all right? The House of Witchcraft is a healthy group because I went through an amazing experience, training, and everything else before I ever attempted, all right? I'm not read a book for 3 years and now somebody told me I'm a high priestess, all right? The folks for us within most of the folklore traditions, what happens is you will work with somebody for a while and then you're going to start developing interest and be like inviting a couple of folks over. And if you're in a healthy group, they're going to be happy for you and encouraging it. And that high priestess is basically going to be like our high priest, our mama, our papa. It's time for you to go see what those folks think about you. And it is those people who will recognize the energy of you as a high priest, you as a high priestess, you as a mama, papa, you as whatever. But that energy is recognized by your peers, all right? So we don't have some of what you see within the neo-pagan world where we do have a degree system, but our degree system is like 3, 4, 5 years in each, because we're like, yeah, slow it down. All right, you got so much to learn about you first, and then you got to learn about and then you got to learn about that, and then you got to learn about that, and then you got to learn about that. Honey, 3 years ain't enough time. Ain't enough time. All right, sip of beer. Let me do my sip of beer. Put on my glasses because I want to make sure. Okay, so at this point, I've moved to South Carolina. All right, and have an opportunity to get a little group together and decide that me and this other woman are going to do it. I made the mistake of relying on someone else, not relying on within me. I'm not going to get all up into it, but it didn't work. Looking back, I'm so happy it didn't work because it taught me so much. So a couple years after that, again, started people coming around, and I was like, all right. And I went to Elizabeth, my high priestess, and told her I've got some people who are circling around. And she basically gave me a stack of notebook paper of just different notes of different things. And this one piece of paper that was like a list of good rules, good membership rules, some tidbits of some of the oldest workings that we have, and said, "Cheers, do with it what you will." All right. And I took it home and spun it around and everything else, and ended up with a Circle in the Willows, which was, you know, for me, this was 25 years ago, 20 years ago. So we were, you know, young children, young couples, young people. We were together about 10 years, 12 years. Last couple of years, people moved, divorced, different jobs. Life is what happened. Life is what happened, witches. All right. And the last three of us stood there in our little place in the woods and put the circle to sleep. And, you know, we didn't close it or end it. We just put it to sleep so that all of us who are involved in that can reach into that energy, you know. And at the same time, I had met Papa Nico, a Haitian voodoo priest. He had come over from Haiti and started out in the flea market, and we had become friends. I was buying supplies and asked me to start reading cards, and I did that for about 10 years. And in the process of being in the Botanica, it put me right in the middle of conjuring again, and right in the middle of that folk magic of the South. You know, for me, a low country, which is the coastal region of South Carolina into the tip of Georgia, is this particular flavor. We are influenced by Conga, and we are influenced by Haiti. All right, and then we also have a very strong Irish influence coming down into us, you know, and this blending that was occurring, and is still occurring today, to be honest with you. Go sit at the Botanic, you know. But I want to talk about, when I talk about conjure, I want to back up and just talk about that for just a minute. Conjure at its finest means to create something out of nothing, because that's the roots of conjure. All right. Be aware, like within our European systems, we had been Christianized by the 1500s. So our folk magic had been tapped down, European folk magic, all right? We were aware of it. We had superstitions. We were still using it, tapped down, all right? When the Africans, the enslaved people that came here, their magic hadn't been tapped down, okay? They were still folk magic. They had been exposed to Christianity in Congo, so they were already working. An Africanized Christianity would be how I could do it. They were already overlaying in this, all right? And you know, when here in America, when we have these Europeans coming together who do have a very strong history of folk magic, and if we look in European folk magic to African folk magic, they're like running parallel. Some of the synchronicities, it's where how are people around the globe doing the same thing who've never talked with each other. All right, you know, the use of puppets, very popular, both continents liked it. Okay, but these are all those different things coming together when I'm like, how did Taren become Taren? Because of all of this stuff. I call it a funky gumbo. All right? I've spent years researching all these different magic lines, trying to even figure it out. Because a lot of times when you start talking about, you know, the Southern magic, folks are like, we don't have the right words to explain. We know what we're doing, all right? But we've never had to explain to the outside the folk. Like I said, for us, doing a little something, something, and we don't talk about it, you know? We all doing it, but we're not talking about it. So I got involved, very involved, and, you know, I had an informal group around me that would come out to the farm, and we just got our conjuring on. We started realizing, you know, we're crossroads. witches. We're standing in between worlds. Each of us has their own story, just like my story. You have your story, all right? And it's this wonderful twisty lines and things that come together and come apart, all right? But over the course of my 40 years with this, it's been good to me, witches. It's been good to me. My life is blessed, so I'm going to leave it at that. And we're going to get back on track with this story. Ooh, beer time. And for those of you who don't know, my vocal cords are permanently damaged, so periodically you'll hear my voice get a low shake to it. Just bear with it like I do, pretty much. You can hear about that in other videos as well. But I get involved in the Botanica. I become a full-time employee. I meet and greet. I start relationships within the community. And it just brought everything back to it, I guess. For us standing in my farm, I can remember us just, we didn't fit in with the pagan community. We didn't quite fit in with the Conjuring community. We were this in-between space of folk witches, pointy hat people who wanted to respect all of divinity, all of our global connections. All right? And that was the seed for the House of Witchcraft, was this beautiful evening of us just dancing around, and everybody had a different relationship with divinity. Everybody had a different story. Everybody's dirt was different, and we all knew who we were, and we stood in this circle together. And I remember that night, because I was standing there and I was like, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been learning, preparing for. All right. And to be able to shine a light for other Crossroads witches. We don't quite fit in there. And you're like, but we're such nice people. Sometimes I'll be like, we're a little spicy and sweet, and we'll slap the shit out of you. Yeah, that's us. We are a tough love witch. But that's the evolution without getting into blah, 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 and some little story details and everything else, because through that I did get involved with Papa Nico's American Haitian voodoo house. He is Haitian. He spends part of his time in Haiti, and initiated as a Mama Brigit. I have been asked by the house not to talk too much about that, and so that's why you hear me just sort of gloss over and move on. This is the House of Witchcraft. This is about other witches and their journeys. This isn't, and, a witch walked into a voodoo shop and what happened? Well, Taren happened is what happened, and I'm proud of all those different roads that I've had the privilege of walking down. And I'm so grateful I get to stand in the crossroads and to appreciate, honor, reverence, and respect to all of these and understanding their full context, all right? I do not, we have to be very careful when we use the word eclectic, that we're not coming across as a European conquest colonialism excuse to take someone else's shit. I said it. All right? Going out and buying conjuring candles and saint candles and putting them up on your altar, not understanding the context of how they're used, the stories of how they're used, all right? That's just straight up disrespect, and ain't no good gonna come of it. I'll guarantee you that. I guarantee you that, all right? If you want to lean into that realm, first, you need to learn your African American history, like for real. And I'll start out with it. I'm gonna teach y'all, all right, a good word. Let's see. I got a good one for y'all. Y'all gonna like this one. Benin is one of, because you know that Africa's not a country, it's a continent. Benin, this major slave port tribe there. Do y'all want to know what their word for okra is? Okra. Seriously. All right. The Benin word for okra is okra. All right. Just as we often talk about with an American language, a lot of our words come from other countries. Well, hear about it. The word rodeo, we get that from our beautiful Mexican friends down there. All right. They taught us how to do it right. That's what I'm going to say. But you need to start learning. For real learning. All right? You cannot take from a community that you have not contributed to. Yeah. All right? I'm going to say it again. You cannot take from a community that you have not contributed to. All right? And that don't mean buying stuff up at the commercial voodoo shop. Those people aren't part of the community. I hate to tell y'all that. I mean, those are just commercialized stuff owned by, hell, one of the people in New Orleans, that lady, she's from Maine. She moved down to New Orleans 17 years ago and proclaimed herself a voodoo queen and opened up a shop. All right, you're like, well, why aren't people stopping it? Who's going to stop her? All right, I know who's going to stop her. Spirit folk. You don't worry none. She'll get hers. She'll get hers. But I do get hesitant to talk about this because I don't want people thinking it means you can come and run and be the stupid white person running through the store with Taren does it too. No. Taren lives in the community. Taren's a part of the community. Taren spends a lot of time doing things that folks don't know about because it ain't none of your damn business type community. All right? Well, when I was talking about what you doing, I'm doing a little something. All right? I keep my spirit folks straight. Okay? And I want to open up that door. I want you guys to understand how truly blended we are and how amazing America's folk magic is. All right, and then you ain't got to look across the pond and see what the Brits are doing. They didn't bring their stuff here until the 1960s. Honey, we've been here since we started getting off our ships, our boats, and walking. All right? And honor the dirt you stand on. Honor your family ancestor. Honor your culture. Honor your region. All right? I'm getting ready to do the Woo Season of the Dead video. But one more. Let me sip my beer. All right. Woo. And one thing I want to say, when we talk about conjure, where we find where our commonalities. Our commonalities are in a relationship to divinity, spirit realm, and the land we stand on, knowing our own region, our flavors. But if we go across, doesn't matter if we're up in Pennsylvania Dutch, all right, they got a whole new flavor of magic up there. Down at the Alabama swamp, which is ultimately, if you get into the core of all of this, it's about healing. All right, that is what it's about. The roots of conjure came from a place of oppression, came from a place of black folks being ripped from their lands, put into the Middle Passage. All right, for some there's the stories, the ships that never returned because nobody knew where they were going. But they went to the Middle Passage, and which is also a signifier with the mythology of going through the river of death. All right, this is horrific. They get here, all right, and this story and what happened, and they kept hope, they kept their magic, they kept their traditions. Many of them were able to. And I think The most important was that it was passed on. All right? And that we have to learn how to pass this information on respectfully. And we have to educate ourselves. Honey, what happened in the past is the past. I can't change any of that. All right? But I do, me, I'm responsible for. So, my job is to know better. If I know better, I do better. All right? And how important it is to educate yourself. All right? To learn all the amazing stories that we have in America. To learn its magic and the roots of those magic and its stories. All right, when we talk, the spirit of the root is not just holding a plant in your hand and going, huh, huh, you're awake. That's not it, sweetie. It's about knowing where it lives, who lives beside it, what it looks like in the spring, what it looks like in the summer, where is it in the winter, all right? What are its roots? Are they long and strangly, or is it the taproot? All right? It's knowing that, the essence of it. When you pick it up in your hand and you have all that knowledge, knowledge is just magical energy, all right? Everything that you learn gets put in your head into knowledge. We manifest through, intention, visualization, So when we are bringing our energies up, that knowledge is there. That becomes part of our magical knowledge. All right? That becomes part of the magic. That becomes part of the working. When I know the spirit of it. And it's not just the roots, it's the spirit of everything. Everything has a spirit to it. And looking at things within a whole picture, within context, starting to understand, a little bit about its flavor. And then how you can use that, okay? But at the same time, always giving honor to the folks that brought it here to America, the folks that reawakened it within the European community in so many ways, all right? And all that came together, and that's where you have conjure, and it's like it's saying, very different flavors across different places. But I have been talking, and if you've watched to the very end for over a half hour, first I want to say, woo, you get your gold star witch. I hope you enjoyed my rambling on what made Taren. And what I do want to say to you witches, all right, let me, on September 15th, I'm going to look in the comments, September 15th, 2021, if you're watching the video. I will be looking in the comments on September 15th, 2021, and I will be picking out a name. And if you have put the word pink, P-I-N-K, pink, in a sentence, you gotta be creative, I will send you a signed copy of Crossroads Witchcraft. Oh, no, I didn't say that. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. All right, you have till September 15th, 2021. Use the word pink in your comments of this video. I'll go through and pick out somebody. We'll put everybody's name in a bucket. I'll keep it as fair as I can for y'all witches. And of course, please go to houseofwitchcraft.com. All right, if you're wanting to get involved in community, we have the 13 Men's community. Go check them out. They're a great group of witches. And with that said, I hope all of y'all have as bright of a blessed day as I've had. And I hope all of y'all's journeys are as interesting as mine has been. And with that said, amen, blessed be, ashe, and ebo.